Today we're going to be discussing an introduction to anatomy. The first several slides that you will see will go over medical terminology. So the combining form for body structure, combining forms for color, combining forms for directional terms, prefixes for introduction to anatomy, prefixes for directional terms, suffixes related to introduction to anatomy, suffixes for directional terms, and abbreviations. Please make sure you put your medical terminology on your flashcards as directed in class. Anatomy is the branch of science that studies body structure. Physiology is the science that studies body function, or how the body works. The anatomy and physiology of the body are interrelated. Each body part is precisely adapted for carrying out its specific job. There are multiple ways to study anatomy. There's developmental anatomy, embryology, surface anatomy, regional anatomy, gross anatomy, microscopic anatomy, and systematic anatomy. Surface anatomy refers to external features of the body. Gross anatomy refers to anatomy that is visible to the naked eye. Let's practice. Number 1, an X-ray technician is studying the structure of the vertebrae. Is this an example of anatomy or physiology? The correct answer is anatomy. Number 2, a student is learning about how the systems of the body interact to maintain normal blood pressure. Is this an example of anatomy or physiology? The correct answer is physiology. The body is organized from simplest to most complex. So cellular, tissues, organs, systems, the whole organism. Cells are the building blocks of the body. They are the basic unit of body structure. Atoms and molecules associate in specific ways to form a cell. An atom is the smallest amount of a chemical element that has the characteristic properties of that element. Atoms can combine chemically to form molecules. For example, 2 atoms of hydrogen chemically combine with 1 atom of oxygen to produce the molecule H2O. There are multiple parts of the cell. The cell membrane is the outer covering of the cell. It encloses the cell and helps hold its shape. The nucleus is the control center of the cell. The cytoplasm is the fluid inside the cell. The cytoplasm is the jelly-like material inside the cell. Specialized structures called organelles are scattered throughout the cell. Organelles perform specific jobs within the cell. The mitochondria is an example of an organelle. The mitochondria generates the energy the cell needs to function. This is a diagram that shows the parts of the cell. The Golgi complex prepares protein and lipid molecules for use in other places inside and outside the cell. The membrane receptors signal cellular responses for extracellular stimuli. The endoplasmic reticulum is a network of membranous tubules within the cytoplasm. It is the transportation system of the cell. The nucleus is the control center of the cell. It contains loosely coiled material called chromatin. When a cell prepares to divide, the chromatin coils tightly and condenses to form rod-shaped bodies, the chromosomes. Each chromosome contains hundreds of genes. Genes are units of hereditary information that govern the structure and activity of the cell. The genes, which are arranged in a specific linear order, are composed of the chemical compound DNA. The complete set of genes that make up the human genetic material is the human genome. DNA is the molecule inside the cell that contains the genetic information responsible for the development and function of an organism. DNA is found in the nucleus. It contains the genetic code using a combination of 4 bases, A, T, C, and G. Messenger RNA is created by transcription from DNA. The goal of transcription is to make an RNA copy of the gene's DNA sequence. During decoding instructions for making proteins involve mRNA transcription. The mRNA travels to the ribosome. tRNA, which are small RNA molecules that play a key role in protein synthesis. Molecules create an amino acid chain from the mRNA codons. Codons are a sequence of 3 nucleotides which together form a unit of genetic code in the DNA or RNA. Mitosis ensures that during cell division, all the genetic information contained within the chromosomes is precisely distributed to each new cell. Mitosis occurs when a complete set of chromosomes is distributed to each end of the parent cell and a nuclear membrane forms around each set. After the parent cell divides, each new cell contains the identical number and type of chromosomes present in the parent cell. The cell spends most of its life during interphase, the period between mitosis. During interphase, the cell actively makes new materials and grows. The chromosomes are duplicated before mitosis actually begins. Mitosis includes 4 stages: prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. During prophase, the first stage of mitosis, the chromatin, which are diffuse strands of genetic material, coils tightly, forming structures that are visible as dark X-shaped bodies under the light microscope. These are the chromosomes. Although the chromosomes are duplicated during interphase, the duplicated chromosome pairs, called sister chromatins, remain attached at a constricted region of each chromosome called the centromere. During prophase, the nucleus becomes smaller and disappears, and the nuclear membrane dissolves. 2 pairs of centrioles, which are cylinder organelles composed of microtubules, play a role in mitosis. Each pair of centrioles migrate toward an opposite pole of the cell. During metaphase, the second phase of mitosis, the chromatids are positioned along the equator of the cell. During anaphase, the sister chromatids separate and become independent chromosomes. The threads of the spindle pull one set of chromosomes to one end of the spindle and the other set to the opposite end. Telophase begins with the arrival of a complete set of chromosomes at each end of the cell. This is a picture that shows the life cycle of a cell. A tissue is a group of closely associated cells specialized to perform particular functions. This is the next highest level of organization above the cellular level. There are 4 main types of tissue in the body. Muscle tissue is composed of cells that have the special ability to shorten or contract in order to produce movement in the body parts. They are characterized into skeletal muscle tissue, smooth muscle tissue, and cardiac muscle tissue. Nervous tissue is the main tissue component of the nervous system. It regulates and controls bodily functions and activities. Connective tissues support, protect, and give structure to other tissues and organs in the body. Epithelial tissue forms the protective covering of all internal and external surfaces of the body. Epithelial tissue lines body cavities and hollow organs. Next, we have the organ level. Tissues are organized into organs such as the brain, stomach, or heart. An organ is a collection of tissues in the body that perform a specific function. Following the organ level, we have organ systems. Organ systems are a group of tissues and organs that work together to perform specific functions, also known as body systems. For example, the urinary system consists of the kidneys, urinary bladder, ureters, and urethra. These are the different systems in the body. The skeletal system supports, protects, and adds shape for the body. The nervous system detects impulses from the senses, and it's the control center of the body. The cardiovascular system transports nutrients and gases around the body. The respiratory system exchanges gases. The digestive system breaks down and absorbs food. The muscular system provides movement for all body parts. The integumentary system provides protection, regulation of temperature, and prevents water loss. The lymphatic system fights infection and provides cellular fluids. The excretory system removes waste from the blood. The endocrine system secretes hormones. And the reproductive system produces sex cells for sexual reproduction. Finally, we have the organism level. An organism is made up of organ systems functioning in a coordinated, precise way. An organism is a living being that has a cellular structure and can independently perform all physiologic functions necessary for life. Homeostasis is referred to as a steady state. The body maintains a balanced concentration of oxygen and other gases, ions, and thousands of chemical compounds required for body processes. Cells, tissues, organs, and organ systems work together to regulate the internal environment of the body. Some examples of homeostatic mechanisms are the self-regulating control system that maintains the body's steady state. They maintain the body's steady state even though conditions continuously change in the external and internal environment. For instance, the control of body temperature and blood pressure regulation. A stressor is a stimulus that disrupts homeostasis and causes stress in the body. For example, you eat a candy bar, the blood glucose concentration will rise above the homeostatic level. This stressor activates homeostatic mechanisms that bring the blood glucose concentration back to the normal range. When homeostatic mechanisms are unable to manage stress, the steady state is not restored. This stress leads to malfunction, which can cause disease or death. A negative feedback system. A change in some steady state triggers a response that is the opposite or negative of the change. So for example, when body temperature exceeds 37.0, the temperature center in the brain is stimulated and the body sweats to lower temperature. A positive feedback system is a variation from a steady state, sets off a series of events that intensify the change. So for example, oxytocin. The pressure of the baby's head pushing against the cervix stimulates neurons that signal the hypothalamus, which signals the posterior pituitary to release oxytocin. This leads to more powerful contractions. Another example of a positive feedback system is hemorrhage. When you're hemorrhaging, you lose blood and your blood pressure decreases. Less blood circulates to the heart and cardiac output decreases, so the heart pumps less blood. Now we have anatomical and directional terms. Anatomical position is when the body is straight with feet slightly apart and thumbs pointed away from the body. Superior means toward the head. Inferior means toward the feet. Lateral means toward the side. Medial means toward the midline. Distal, toward the extremities. Proximal, toward the center of the body. Deep, away from the body surface. Superficial, toward the body surface. Cranial, toward the head or brain. And caudal, toward the tail. Anterior or ventral means the front surface of the body, the belly side. Posterior or dorsal means the back surface of the body. Midline is an imaginary line that divides the body equally. Cephalic and cranial mean toward the skull, and symmetry means that body parts are arranged in the same way on the left and right sides of the body. The body also has planes. The sagittal plane divides the body into right and left parts. The transverse plane divides the body into superior and inferior parts. And the frontal plane divides the body into anterior and posterior parts. This picture here shows the different planes of the body.